Hi everyone, I'm about to start a free beginner sewing series where you can make a whole outfit. Here's a little sneak peek. It's going to consist of a drawstring bag, a sun hat and a simple shift dress. So each project you will learn skills which will help you in the next one. Now I know a lot of you are complete newbies and excited for these patterns, so I thought it'd be a really good idea to get started with a few quick sewing foundation videos first, just to make sure that you feel confident and ready to go. There's going to be 3 short parts in this little series, and today is part 1, sewing machine basics. I'm going to walk you through how to wind a bobbin, thread a machine, set up a straight stitch and sew a seam. So nothing crazy, literally just the essentials you need for getting started with this beginner sewing series. So if you are absolutely brand new to sewing, this is a perfect place to start. I have 2 sewing machines with me today. I have a digital Brother and an older Janome sewing machine. So as I walk you through the basics, I'm actually going to point out features in both machines so you can follow along with whichever style is closest for you at home. Now, full disclosure, this sewing machine is actually in Japanese, but don't worry, it's very basic and it's mostly pictures and numbers anyway. And if you can understand this machine when I'm demonstrating, you can figure out any sewing machine. Between these 2, most sewing machines will work and function in a similar way. So to begin, let's plug everything in and turn the machines on. Here is your foot pedal. This is how you sew. So the harder you press, the faster the needle moves up and down. The pedal plugs in on the side of the machine, and you may have a separate plug for power. Once that's connected, we can turn the machine on. Here is your foot lever to lift the sewing foot up and down. This small button releases the presser foot, so you'll switch feet depending on what you're sewing. So for example, when inserting a zipper, you'll attach a zipper foot. To attach a new foot, lower the presser foot lever and it will click securely into place. Here's the hand wheel. You can also manually move the needle up and down by hand for more control. For changing your stitch options, the Janome is very basic. You just click the dial up and down to move between stitches. Some stitches require a specific presser foot, and most machines include a guide or a manual to help you match them. So this Janome has one in the lid. For the Brother, you select which stitch you want. It also shows the type of stitch with the corresponding foot, so you can see for a buttonhole, you need the buttonhole foot A, and a straight stitch is foot J. The Brother also has a handy attachable chart that shows all the different stitches as well as a manual. This controls your stitch length. A higher number is a longer stitch. So a standard stitch length is 2.5. Here you can adjust the needle position side to side, which is also the width of your zigzag stitch if you were sewing that. So as you move it, you'll see it align with different parts of the presser foot. And you may need to adjust this for different seam allowances or when you're top and edge stitching. Here is the reverse button or lever. When you push this, the machine reverses sewing so you can backstitch. We always do this at the start and end of a seam to secure the thread. The Brother also has this button to quickly raise or lower the needle. This controls the speed when you sew. If your machine has speed control settings, set it to slow while you're practicing and increase the speed when you're more confident. And this is how you change the needle. So you'll usually need a small screwdriver to loosen the screw that holds it in place. The needle has one flat side. Insert with the flat side facing the back of the machine. Push the needle all the way up, then tighten. Depending on what fabric you're sewing, you will need to change the needle. So here's a helpful chart of all the needle sizes and uses. Now, I think it's important to mention that some machines have the option to sew without a foot pedal. They have a start-stop button on the machine instead. Personally, I recommend using the foot pedal, especially as a beginner, because you'll want both hands free to properly guide your fabric while you sew. Okay, let's start by winding the bobbin. I'm going to quickly show you on the Janome first and then the Brother because they're slightly different. Take your thread spool and place it on the spool pin. So if you're using a horizontal spool pin, the thread should come off the bottom of the spool towards you. Pop the cap back on, and I loosen it slightly so it doesn't restrict the spinning. Pull the thread through the thread guide and left to right, pass through the bobbin winding tension disc. So make sure the thread passes securely between the discs. That's quite important. Click your bobbin on the winder and wind the thread clockwise around the bobbin 5 or 6 times to secure it, and then trim off the excess thread. Click the bobbin to the right. Now before winding, make sure the presser foot is raised and there's no upper thread in the machine. Place your foot firmly down and begin winding. The bobbin should fill evenly, so if not, stop and check your threading. Most modern machines will automatically stop once it's full. My older Janome doesn't, so I just keep an eye on it. Push the bobbin back to the left, cut the thread. Here's a quick comparison with the Brother sewing machine. So load the thread on the spool the same way, and then this one has small arrows showing you the direction for winding the bobbin. So you can also look for those as a guide. And the bobbin clicks off automatically when full. Now we're ready to thread the machine. Again, I'll show you first on the Janome, then on the Brother. Make sure the presser foot is up and the needle has to be raised to its highest point so you can see the thread take up lever. Start by pulling the thread through the first thread guide at the top and then around the tension disc. Bring it down through the tension channel, pull it up and around the take up lever, then back down through the lower guides and finally behind the needle bar. Trim the end of the thread to a sharp point and thread the needle from front to back. Pass the end of the thread through the presser foot and pull about 5 centimeters or 2 inches towards the back. Here's one more time on the Brother. You can see it has an opposite threading system. The thread comes down the right hand side, but it's all the same principle. Everything's now threaded, we can load the bobbin. This machine has a top loading bobbin. Some machines might have front loading. On the bobbin cover, there's a nice clear diagram to help show the direction of threading. So the thread comes off the bobbin on the left. Open the clear bobbin cover and drop the bobbin in. Pull the thread into the small slot and slide it under the tension spring. Hold the top thread, turn the hand wheel towards you. This will hook the bobbin thread. I use snips to help grab it and then pull both threads to the back and close the cover. Now, if you have a front loading bobbin, you'll also have a bobbin case. The thread should come off counterclockwise again. Insert the bobbin, pull the thread into the slit, slide it under the tension spring, there'll be a little click, and leave a tail about 10 centimeters or 4 inches long. Now it should hang on its own if the tension is correct in the bobbin case. So if it starts dropping, you can tighten the screw ever so slightly. You then hold the latch and insert the case back into the machine until it clicks, and then bring the bobbin thread up exactly the same way. Your machine is now threaded and ready for sewing. Now before even sewing a seam, I suggest getting 2 pieces of fabric and just sew. This is just to get a feel for how the machine moves. Practice back stitching, lowering the needle by hand, lifting the foot and pivoting to create a corner. Try pressing lightly on the foot pedal to slow the needle down. Try sew a curve. Now a little tip when stopping is sometimes the thread locks and you can't pull the fabric out easily. So just wiggle the hand wheel to unlock it, bring the needle up and pull your fabric out. Once you feel comfortable, let's sew a seam. On your needle plate, you'll see a series of lines. These are seam allowance guides, usually marked in both inches and centimeters. Here's a quick reference for common seam allowances and when they're typically used. Align the edges of your fabric with the seam guide on the needle plate. This example is a 5/8 inch or 1.5 centimeter seam. Start near the edge of the fabric, but not right on the very edge. If you're ever unsure if you've aligned to the correct line, check with your tape measure. With your hand ready on the back stitch, start sewing slowly. Sew forward 3 to 4 stitches, then press reverse and sew back 3 to 4 stitches. Lightly guide the fabric, don't push or pull it, and let the machine feed through while you keep it aligned with the seam guide. When you reach the end, back stitch again, 3 to 4 stitches to secure the seam. We always start and finish with backstitching. You have just sewn yourself a basic seam. Now let's finish off today's tutorial with a quick edge stitch. Press your seam flat. We want to stitch about 3 millimeters or just under 1/8 of an inch. On my Janome, I'm going to use the center line on the presser foot as my guide. If I lower the line to match the seam, I will sew just to the edge of it. So look for markings on your machine or try move the needle if needed. Sew carefully along the edge of your seam. And that is an edge stitch. We do a lot of edge stitching in sewing because it keeps the seam allowances flat and neat. And that's the basics of your sewing machine. So hopefully it's been of use for you. Stay tuned for part 2, fabric and tools for beginners.